I did the haunted walking tour. I had got a Groupon, and none of the cast went with me, but my team, my hair and makeup and stuff, we went. My assistant.
You did it with a Groupon?
Yeah, with a Groupon. It was only like $100.
A Groupon?
Yeah, you take a group.
Tiffany Haddish did a Groupon ghost tour.
I am the queen of Groupon.
Welcome home. I know this place isn't as warm as I'd hoped, but I'm going to light a vanilla candle, and it's going to be a game changer.
Will it though?
We're out.
I'm a real fan of the ride. I probably would be classified as a Disney adult if I wasn't making movies for a living. How could you not make the movie about Hatbox Ghost and Gracie? You know, those are the faces that you immediately are drawn to. First of all, this sort of character that fans of the ride kind of co-created with Disney. They just started calling one guy Gracie, and they started calling another one the Hatbox Ghost, and now these are like canon characters. And I just thought that was a perfect way to both sort of put the audience in the literal seat of the riders, where you're not really of the mansion, but you're a visiting guest, kind of give you the candy of what the actual haunts are up to up in there. I just thought it was such a smart way to do that.
I immediately got to Googling the ride and trying to figure out everything I could about it. I'd heard about it, but I hadn't been to Disneyland since I was like 2. So I had to refreshen up and figure everything out. I actually came across a video online that kind of showed you what the experience of the ride was like. So I watched that video, and then I was able to like kind of remember through soul, spirit, search, and reaping what my experience was at 2 years old. And so it was exciting to get on set and see that a lot of the things that I saw in the video, from the patterns on the wall to the ghosts that were on the ride, ended up making it into the film. And I was like, wow, this is so true to the source material.
I think what's so special about it is that it rides the ride of nostalgia, that sort of beautiful emotional connection. We all have any age to that attraction. We've all had an experience on the Haunted Mansion attraction. And at the same time, it has, as far as I'm concerned, a very modern take on it with an old-fashioned idea.
This mansion is unhinged.
These ghosts definitely don't want to leave.
Death lurks around every corner. God, give us a break. There's so many bad people in the world. Haunt them.
Amen.
There's a painting actually on the wall of the seance room that people don't really notice. It's the painting of the woman who ages slowly as you walk by her. And if you look at that painting throughout the film, she ages as you get closer to the end of the film, but we never really like call it out. We never really sort of like zoomed in on it. Gradually through the film, she gets older just as she does on the ride. There were so many things that didn't make the cut to the point where I don't even remember. One of the big ones was wanting to make sure that we had enough scenes that rooted the movie firmly in New Orleans. That was really important, and making sure that we understood that this mansion sort of exists in a real world that, you know, people can visit and inquire about. There's a reason why the Imagineers decided to set this mansion in New Orleans and build a whole New Orleans square around it. When you visit this place, you can really see why.
You feel the spiritual essence and energy of the place. This is really embedded here. There's a rich history and a lot of marriage of cultures. It's a perfect backdrop to have those kind of philosophical discussions where it's not sort of blown off as something that's whimsical or like crazy, the idea that there might be entities that exist that aren't us. So it's a good environment, I think, to have a backdrop like for a story like this. Are ghosts real? And in my own personal journey, I feel they're real. I feel they're very real.
Yeah, I've definitely had some ghost experiences over the years. So having that be here and having the culture of it here, I think was really significant, really special. And I loved the details that were in it, felt really at home in New Orleans. And they changed the bus and even some of the dancing and the ghosts and the music and the food. Like, it just gave it a richness that just felt palpable, which is exactly what you feel when you land in New Orleans.
This is a story about people who normally don't belong together sort of forming a family out of necessity, frankly, and really against their will, learning to love each other. In a lot of ways, that's the story of New Orleans too. This is a place where fear and laughs and joy and sorrow. These things really do live side by side in this place. You can feel it in the art, in the architecture, in the food. And so these things were not mutually exclusive. I felt like, doing right by New Orleans does right by the Haunted Mansion.
The cast came. I didn't, because I was stuck in the ball. I gotta tell you, it's a limiting space to be stuck in the crystal ball. The rest of the cast came to New Orleans, and clearly New Orleans is filled with ghosts. There's no question.
I think it's more that I don't know about ghosts. I did the haunted walking tour. I got I got a Groupon, and me and some of the none of the cast went with me, but my team, my hair and makeup and stuff, we went. My assistant.
You did it with a Groupon?
Yeah, with a Groupon. Yeah, I do everything on Groupon. It was all of us. It was 5 of us. We all went for it was only like $100.
A Groupon.
Yeah, you take a group.
Tiffany Haddish did a Groupon ghost tour in New Orleans.
I am the queen of Groupon.
This is a reality show that I would pay good money to watch.
It was fun. I summoned Madame Leota!
I can show you what happened, but it will cost you $3.
What?
Wow. It's highway robbery.
Who said that?
There's a part where you say $3 and Danny goes, $3, that's highway robbery. That's too much money. I was dying when we were filming that.
It's a new interpretation because the history, the lore of the house, we decided and found out that Madame Leota was Russian. Look at her costumes. Her costumes have this beautiful Russian influence. She was a total creation, primarily of Jeffrey Kurland, who's our costume designer. His interpretation, partnered with Justin's, allowed me then to just come in and do my thing. But I really took my cues from him rather than the attraction itself.
What kind of medium would be in New Orleans, at this time in the 1800s? Like, where would she have come from, and how iconic would she have to have been to where we are still talking about her to this day? Tiffany Haddish's character worships Madame Leota. And if you look at Harriet's costume, you can see that Harriet is trying to dress like Madame Leota. We created a bit of a costume story. New Orleans at that time was a very global, international city. There were people from all parts of the world that would not have come across each other's paths anywhere else. And we just we followed that research to some things that we just felt like were visually interesting. Like one of the things that Jeffrey and I talked about was, okay, when she's not in the ball, how do we still create that kind of ball shape around her head? And we just created a backstory for her that made sense with what we knew about her and that made her still feel lived in. There was a ball on set that I think maybe we had it so that if Jamie wanted to get in this thing and suffocate, it was technically possible. I don't think that lasted very long. It might have just been for reference, to be honest. And there was always a practical, Jamie to sort of work with the other actors. But I wanted them to be really vibing off of each other and have a sense of realism.
The only direction I ever got from Justin was just, Jamie, do it again, but can you be funnier? This is a woman, it's a little bit like, there was a movie where somebody wakes up 300 years later and she thinks she's been in the ball a day and she's been in there hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So there's that feeling that there was comedy to be played with the funny part of the fact that she's been in there a long time and she thinks she can bribe them for $3.
Yeah, that's my favorite
$3
part.
Is, to her, it's like today would be $3 million.
Actually, I got really into the idea of this single mom who wanted to have a new start for her and her son, and just sort of the fun of this person having a history in New Orleans from her family and getting this mansion sight unseen and it being kind of a surprise. I've been on the ride a gazillion times. I love Disneyland and Disney World, so that lore is already very deeply in my spirit. But it was just really fun kind of crafting this character that I thought reminded me a lot. It was actually when I spoke to Jeffrey that it felt like it really kind of synced in when we were picking out what I was gonna wear. Because the idea of wearing these like A-line skirts and little heels and being all done up in this sort of retro kind of style really spoke a lot to the character to me of someone who just is just always going to put her best foot forward regardless of the circumstances, and kind of really informed sort of the comedy and the connection with my son. And so I feel like that was sort of my in, was really trying to figure out how I was going to be navigating this space and how she was going to be preparing herself every day. And then it kind of just went from there. It was just very organic to the present and not necessarily so attached to the history of it.
Getting into the wardrobe and the costume really gave you a sense of these characters, this world that we were in, which is kind of different than the world we live in, but kind of similar. There are a lot of things that are similar. I grew up in church, and so like there was a lot of like Holy Ghost being caught, and like a lot of, you know, things happening that I kind of remembered and kind of channeled that into what it might feel like. That's the closest thing I've ever seen to people being possessed by the music, being possessed by the feeling and the energy. And so I just kind of took that and put it into that moment, ratcheted it up a little bit, want to make it fun, you know. So, and then sharing these intimate moments with Chase Dillon, who's playing the younger man in the movie, and it just felt like you don't see very many, like, you know, black man to young black boy interactions that feel healthy and nice and beautiful in that way, and real, you know, polarized cinema. And so it was beautiful to be a part of that kind of relationship dynamic and be able to be a father figure for him.
That was, I think, one of the things I loved so much, was to see how fearless Chase was, because I definitely had that coming into this, just being with this crew of people who I am absolutely in total adoration of, who do comedy, which I so rarely get a chance to do. So I definitely felt that very fun challenge in that. But he just was bold about it. Like, if he did not have lines in a scene, he was ad-libbing. We were making all kinds of, and the two of us really played off of each other really well with facial expressions and a lot of the stuff that we ad-lib together in these scenes, because he was just so fearless. Like, it really worked, like that dynamic between us and like the playfulness there, and just us feeling that witness kind of thing. I think our characters are very much vulnerable and needing these folks who are showing up, their expertise to help us. And so there is the two of us together quite often, sort of looking at these experts and how they're fitting together and commiserating for all of our benefit. And it was really fun to have us be kind of a twosome.
Your like childlike essence and Chase's seemingly 30-year-old maturity, it just kind of like went together in this really nice way. I mean, he's a child, but he just seems like he's been here 30 million times.
I know.
And you have this ability to maintain this like magical wonder inside of you. So I think that, you know, those things being married made for a really cool peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Be careful. Death lurks around every corner.
Other more powerful entities may come through.
Not on our watch.
Well, what are you gonna do? Seriously?
They're already dead.
You're gonna be deader.
Okay.
Directing is communicating. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of visualizing. It's a lot of Pinterest boards. It's a lot of, you know, pictures printed out meticulously and pasted all over offices. And it also is a lot of picking really great people and creating space for them to do what they do and to be great. And, you know, whether we're talking about Darren Guilford, or we're talking about Jeffrey Curlin, our costume designer, or we're talking about Jeffrey Waldron, our cinematographer, you know, I gave people parameters and touchstones and some things that I was ultimately trying to accomplish. But I always wanted them to surprise me. I always wanted them to outdo whatever my pitch was. And I just have to say, people really, really did their work out of love for the source material, for the script, but for the mansion. You know, people really brought their very best in their A game, and it was then my job to sort of kind of cherry pick from all these wonderful things that each department head would bring. But I encouraged everyone to be, you know, really faithful to the time periods that we were referencing, to the place of New Orleans, and then of course, as always, to the ride and to the intentions of the ride's creators.
And in Haunted Mansion 2, once we get some writers together, you know, it'll be some Madam Leota and Harriet go on a little adventure or something.
Yes, I think it'll be like Thelma and Louise.
Yes.
But it'll be Madame Leota and Harriet, and
in the spirit realm.
because we're already dead.
Yep. Well, no, I'm not dead.
No, but you
here-
will be if we're Thelma and Louising. You will be
Yeah.
completely dead.
Okay, well, you know what? We're gonna figure out how to
No, but
make
we'll
it
be
work.
dead.
Maybe Harriet gets you a body. Now you in a body. Now we
Oh,
mix
I see.
Freaky Friday and Haunted Mansion together.
Oh.